What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Ernie, Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to be talking about Captain Marvel number 4 and 5 by Kelly Thompson and Carmen Carnero. But before we jump into it, we got to hit that intro.
Word to wise, grass only greener when it's fertilized. Gave them truth in these songs, they prefer to lies. Destiny beautiful, adrift in her purple lies. You can't see me, you Stevie, wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
Last we left off, old Carol Danvers was trapped on Roosevelt Island, which at this point has been cut off from the rest of the world thanks to Nuclear Man's anti-sausage party barrier. And while he's been able to keep the likes of Spider-Woman, Echo, and Hazmat powerless alongside their all-woman rebellion, Carol has come to even the odds. With the Nuclear Man's anti-power field not affecting her, he has decided to get someone who could affect Carol. Not just physically, but mentally as well. Rogue. In case you've lived under a rock for the last 30 years, Rogue and Captain Marvel have a history with one another, a history that comes with a really weird Mandela effect for comics fans. You've probably seen all the memes that have cropped up since the Captain Marvel movie was originally announced and she was listed by MCU guru Kevin Feige as one of, if not the most powerful character that they have introduced up to this point. People going on about how, oh, wait till Rogue shows up and puts her in a coma. Wah, wah, wah. Bro Flakes crying and screaming and yelling as far as the eye can see. Well, oddly enough, Rogue in the past did steal Carol's powers during her time as Ms. Marvel. But people often get it twisted that she left Carol Danvers comatose for decades. These supposed comics fans are misremembering this because of the 90s X-Men animated series. That did not happen. Yes, her powers were stolen. However, Carol went on to suffer far greater atrocities and even joined the X-Men, kind of in a similar capacity as characters like Moira McTaggart. Only instead of her purview being science, her purview was the military and space. You see, Rogue did something worse to Carol that people don't talk about. Yes, she stole the powers, but she left Carol without a purpose. Something that eventually led to Carol turning to alcoholism and other really self-destructive behavior. She's also become a million times more powerful since then, but that still doesn't change the fact that she's got scars from Rogue. That said, the Rogue before her right now is in fact the genuine article. This Rogue is also not in control of herself. Nuclear Man is using a control collar to keep her on his side and doing everything he wants her to do, whether she wants to do it or not. And even with her life force being drained from her body, Carol can tell Rogue's lights are on, but nobody's home. If anything, she looks like she's seen a ghost. Even when Carol's able to get Rogue away from her with her binary power burst, the drain doesn't seem to go away. It's continuing even at a distance, much to Carol's horror. Rogue's powers have always relied on physical skin-to-skin contact, but now, thanks to Xandra, the genetically produced child of Shi'ar Empress Lilandra and Professor Charles Xavier, who telepathically switched a 1 here and a 0 there during Mr. and Mrs. X number 5, she's able to steal Carol's powers and life force simply by being conscious and within 20 feet of her. But Machismo the Nuclear Man interrupting the fight in ways only Teddy Long could isn't ready for her to take Carol down yet. He wants her spirit broken to become subservient to him. So Rogue has to take a knee, albeit an electric one. Carol will fight Rogue again, but only after she's rested and back to 100%. And then it will be a fight to the death in his arena. And what does the winner get, other than their life? They get the honor of being the Nuclear Man's bride and his personal superpower baby factory. Fortunately for Carol, Spider-Woman and Sam were able to make it back to the Rebel base, and though they're able to hold their own with armies of metal men, they're hardly a match for a fully powered Rogue, especially since she's absorbed Wonder Man's power set. Not only that, Machismo had built new metal men that are now housing the enslaved men that they have been looking for all this time. So now they have to change how they attack them. And now that they've also put 2 and 2 together to learn what we already know by this point about the brawl for it all, and by all I mean baby making or death, they know they need to speed things up because this fight is happening right now. And this fight will take place inside an electrified steel cage, playa, Thunderdome style. Whatever energy Carol got back from her rest is easily gone within seconds of fighting this all-new, all-different Rogue. But something happens that neither Carol, nor maybe even you, the gentle reader, might expect. Rogue's able to break free of Nuclear Man's control just long enough to clue Carol in on a little secret. Rogue wants to die. She doesn't want to kill Carol. She doesn't even want to fight her for that matter. She has no beef with Carol, and more importantly, she came to this island to help Captain Marvel. That was her original intention before she realized she was lured there by the Nuclear Man. And if she doesn't want to kill Carol, and she doesn't want to fight her, she most certainly doesn't want to become the quotey fingers queen of the Nuclear Man. But Carol grabs Rogue and pulls her close and tells her that the only way they get out of this is by doing something really stupid and incredibly reckless. At least in regards for Carol. Repeat history. Carol lets Rogue absorb everything she's got, except for the very, very last drop of her life force. Let Nuclear Man think he's won. Rogue takes all the power, and Carol's psyche merges with hers just long enough that they can fight as a combined force, and Carol doesn't have to lose her life. It's risky, it's dangerous, and you gotta admit, it takes a lot for a person who essentially had everything stolen from her to trust the woman who took it all to take it again and give it back. And she does. Rogue takes everything Carol has, leaving her body lifeless. Psych! Rogue has become Carol Danvers, no different than if she would have taken too much of anyone else's powers, only this time it was intentional. Carol is in there, in control. She sees what Rogue sees, her lifeless body. This surge of life force was more than enough to break Machismo's hold on Rogue's mind. And now that Nuclear Man's guard is down, Carol is ready to strike, unleashing her binary photon power blast, even further augmented by Wonder Man's ion power set still residing inside Rogue. And with a coordinated strike from the Rebellion attacking at this precise moment, Carol has old Nuclear Man on the ropes, but she can't do him in just yet. There's a bomb somewhere hidden on the island, a big one, and only Nuclear Man knows where it is. Regardless of all that, Carol is just not able to put him down before her psyche returns back to her body. But regardless of all that, they still get an opportunity that we rarely get to see, to fight side by side against the Nuclear Man and his Metal Men army. But there's still the issue of the bomb, a bomb that very well might be Sam, the Nuclear Man's son, since he's the only thing Machismo sent to them. Even more important, Echo never stopped keeping tabs on Sam. Something isn't right with him, as if he's not 100% human. And what's even worse is Sam isn't even aware of it. As he begins glowing green, he realizes something isn't right, and that he is in fact the bomb Machismo warned them about. Sam has been unknowingly draining each of the women of their powers, storing that energy to unleash a massive explosion using their own power. Sam immediately wants Carol to kill him, end it all before he can hurt anyone. But Carol thinks there's another way, letting Rogue steal Sam's powers old school style to knock him out, which coincidentally dissolves the barrier and the power drain fields that kept them imprisoned and powerless on Roosevelt Island. This whole time that they've been powerless, this whole time that they've been behind the 8-ball, Sam was the one who was actually holding them back. Even though he wasn't doing it intentionally, he had no idea. But sometimes everyone getting their powers back isn't the best thing in the world. Hazmat, for one, is always radiating nuclear energy, the very thing Machismo can absorb, making him just as dangerous as he was when the power drainer was still up and running. But it's teamwork that always makes the dream work. Rogue eats a thunderclap from Nuclear Man just long enough for Carol to unleash the full force of her power on him. But just when Machismo thought Carol failed to incapacitate him, he quickly learns that was not the case. She was only leaving some cheeks for Jennifer to smash. Nuclear Man knows he's proper and he's not about to hang around for the climax, teleporting himself far away and taking Sam with him. And with the Nuclear Man in the win, the women and men freed and returned back to the normal hustle and bustle of New York, Carol and Rogue clear the air, officially, and honestly probably for the first time in any kind of mutual capacity. They've talked before, sure, they've pretended to bury the hatchet before, but now they both have decided to put the past aside. Rogue knows that what she did to Carol, even though she was mind-controlled, was the worst thing she could ever do to her, and she feels bad about it. Rogue admits that she never came there to hurt Carol. And this is something we already knew, but what she tells us that we didn't know is that if she knew what was going on, she never would have showed up in the first place. Rogue remembers the nightmare that Carol went through when she lost her powers, and she would never want to do that to Carol again. And Carol admits that they'll never be the best of friends, or even real friends, or even take windy walks together, but what they are now together is better than anything they've ever been since that fateful day. She puts genuine respect on Rogue's name that she's become a real dyed-in-the-wool hero, one of the best, that regardless of whether it was really Carol or Rogue herself piloting them during the fight with the Nuclear Man, she did exactly what a real hero would do. Nuclear Man brought Rogue to Roosevelt Island to break Captain Marvel, but instead, they joined together and broke him for their trouble. Carol and Rhodey are back together officially, getting coffee and everything. Hazmat has warmed up to the idea of Carol mentoring her, and Ripley Ryan, the young plucky reporter who was snatched up by Nuclear Man, is free too. Life is back to normal for Captain Marvel, or as normal as life can be for the woman who spends most of her free time in the far reaches of space. But she's not off the hook just yet, because it seems that the positive image nurturing story Ripley Ryan was supposed to write about Carol turned into a smear campaign, one that is going to turn the entirety of the United States government, as well as the United States as a whole, against Captain Marvel. And somewhere, one of Carol's old arch nemeses is waiting in the darkness to capitalize on Captain Marvel's most recent run of misfortunes. And she has some funky giant krakens, not unlike the ones we saw Carol and Spider-Woman fight in Captain Marvel #1, and a strange purple serum that she's waiting to unleash. And that is the end of Captain Marvel Volume 1. This is a story that honestly I think was probably one of the most appropriately timed stories, and I love what Kelly Thompson did here as far as the dynamic between Captain Marvel and Rogue. It was one of those things I always felt like comics fans often tend to put emotions and thoughts on characters that were never really there or aren't really there or have no basis for even existing. It's like a typical thing with all superheroes. Like everyone just assumes that if one superhero meets another, that they should fight. And honestly, comic books have kind of conditioned comic book fans to feel that way. But I feel like comic book fans have kind of snowballed it and turned it into this thing where we expect it to happen with everything. It's kind of like when the Captain Marvel movie was coming out and everyone was going on about, oh, well, Captain Marvel can't beat Shazam in a fight. Well, who's to say if they ever actually met, they would actually fight? What if they just went and got a sandwich or went and grabbed a pizza or something? I mean, when two people who are both good guys meet, they don't always have to fight. They don't have to like each other. They're not just random animals that if you put them in the same room with each other, they automatically have to fight. And that's kind of what I've always felt like people do with Captain Marvel and Rogue. And I'm kind of glad to see that when Kelly Thompson came in and picked up this book, that she just said, nah, we're gonna do away with that. If anyone else was writing this book, probably they just would have had Captain Marvel and Rogue still fighting it out for the next umpteen million years, and that's just something I think is really boring, especially when there's no story there, other than the one that we've been retelling for over 30 years. But anyways, this story directly leads us into a lot of the shenanigans that are going to be affecting Captain Marvel going forward, with the dark Captain Marvel that's going to be coming up within the next month or two. So anyways, let me know, for better or worse, what you thought about Captain Marvel. Number 4 and 5 by Kelly Thompson and Carmen Carnero. Sound off in the comments.
So hey, you made it to the end of the video. Awesome for you. If you enjoyed this video, and if you made it this far, I don't see how you didn't, do me a favor. Hulk smash that like button. And if you want to see more awesome videos like this one, make sure you click subscribe so you can become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers. And tap that bell so you know when I post up. Also, feel free to go check out my Patreon, where if you chuck in $1, you can get early access to most of my videos up to a week early. And if you have time, make sure you swing by nerd901.com, where you can find more of my content as well as other amazing stuff. Anyways, until next time, I love you 3000 plus ultra!